Hello everybody, this is Dr. Cole. It is early Sunday morning, January 23rd, and we're now entering week 7 of Political Science 1013 for the second 8-week term for spring 2023. Everybody, it's just after midnight. It's very early Sunday morning. I want to try to go ahead and get this message out on Sunday so that you'll have it before our exam number 3 on Monday the 24th. So I hope you'll be able to take a look at this video clip before you take the exam. Very quickly, the exam, of course, is based on the class notes for Units 5 and 6 on the presidency and the federal bureaucracy, plus 4 readings that we've assigned you, and you have the links to those readings in the message that I've sent out. Notice that 2 of these are from the Wall Street Journal, and you were sent instructions on how to access Wall Street Journal articles through the McKee Library's institutional subscription. In any case, you have an article about the president as national mayor. What, if anything, should the president's responsibility be with regard to natural and man-made disasters that may happen all over the country? And you might think that those would be the responsibility of state and local officials, but very often the president is called upon. At least there's an expectation that the president will at least show up if the disaster is large or major or important enough. Then we have a couple of articles to read about the recent indictment of former President Trump by Peter Baker of the New York Times and Karl Rove, political consultant, writing in the Wall Street Journal. Karl Rove concentrates on the implications for the upcoming presidential election, while Peter Baker looks at the broader implications. Then, last but not least, you have an article from the Wall Street Journal on the subject of why the president needs to be able to fire bureaucrats. Now, this is an issue that comes up in the latter part of our class notes for Unit 6, having to do with the need for the president to exercise political control over the bureaucracy. It's been reported that Donald Trump is considering, if he gets back into office, steps that he might take once he's sworn back in to fire large numbers of bureaucrats and thereby exercise a measure of political control over the bureaucracy. All right, so those are 4 articles you're asked to look at, and expect about 15 items of the 50 based on those articles, with the rest of the exam being based upon the class notes for Units 5 and 6. 24 hours to take the exam on Monday the 24th, 50 true, false, and multiple choice items. Just a couple of other things, everybody. Remember, this coming Thursday the 27th is the deadline, and I must hear from you by that time if you wish to do a term paper about your choice of topic. The paper itself is due in another 2 weeks, May 11th, I believe. So we've put this policy in to stave off last-minute term papers. We need to pick our topic and get started working a little bit in advance. So I've stipulated you must inform me of your topic by this Thursday, April 27th, or your paper will not be accepted. I've heard from 1 or 2 students already. All right, everybody, after the exam, we'll be moving on to our final exam material coming up after the first of the month, second week of May, Unit 7 and 8, and we'll begin with Unit 7 on the Supreme Court. Now, when it comes to the Supreme Court, we will discuss how the Supreme Court does its business, how it deliberates, how it decides whether or not to take a case. Look for such terminology as majority, dissenting, and concurring opinions. At the end of the class notes for Unit 7, we discuss several so-called landmark decisions of the Supreme Court, such as the Obergefell case on same-sex marriage, Brown versus Board of Education back in the 1950s over segregation of the schools. Let's see, what else is there? Citizens United regarding campaign finance. And then there was Roe versus Wade, but of course Roe versus Wade now has been superseded by the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe versus Wade last year. Roe versus Wade, of course, going back to the 1970s. Now we'll have a discussion on that probably around the first of the month for our last discussion for the term. What I want to emphasize about the Supreme Court unit is much of what we discuss in Unit 7 on the Supreme Court has to do with the Supreme Court as a political institution. And people will insist that it shouldn't be a political institution. It should be a strictly legal institution. But the politics does seem to enter in recent decades anyway, especially when we have a vacancy on the Supreme Court and the president has to nominate someone to take the place of an individual who's resigned from the Supreme Court or perhaps died in office. And the politics often comes out at that point. And we've had some very acrimonious controversies over Supreme Court nominations and confirmations over the past few decades, especially during the Trump administration. That's a big, big issue ongoing. Many people think that Trump's promises about who he would appoint to the Supreme Court had a lot to do with him getting elected. All right, so that's an important topic for us to take up. That then will be coming up immediately after we take Exam 3. We'll begin Unit 7 on the Supreme Court after we take the exam on Monday. And the final exam will cover Unit 7 and 8 on the Supreme Court and Congress. All right, but that's coming up after our exam on Monday the 24th. 50 items, true, false, and multiple choice, about the class notes for Unit 5 and 6 on the presidency and the federal bureaucracy, plus 4 articles that you were assigned to read. Furthermore, everybody, please remember, if you want to do a term paper, contact me about your choice of topic by Thursday the 27th. All right then, everybody, I hope you'll get to take a look at this. Hope this gets to you before the exam. Okay. Study hard, take it easy, and we'll talk to you a bit more about the Supreme Court and also Congress a week from now at this time.